Is it better without the light? I hate the shadow. Hi guys! I don't mind my shadow, but the lighting is horrific today. Like the natural light, so this is a obviously very unnatural light that I have set up here so that... But I am currently at my parents' house and they don't have the best filming spots. At least not some that I think are like aesthetic for the background. So I put a book pile next to me over here. Today we're going to talk about all the books that I read in March because it's April 1st. Well, actually today's April 2nd, but whatever. In March I read 9 books. 3 of them were romances and 2 of them were thrillers, 2 of them were YA mystery kind of, and 1 of them was a dark romance and 1 was a fantasy. We have 6 different authors. So let's get started with the first book that I read in March. I actually started this book in February, but I didn't finish it until March, which was The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. I gave this book 3 stars because it's third person, which I'm personally not a big fan of third person, especially not in romance. That just already ruined it, but it wasn't that good to me. It's these 2 people who are trying to find the love of their life and they meet each other, so they make it a competition to see who can find the love of their life first. But obviously they have chemistry and they like each other, so they kind of ruin each other's dates or get jealous when the other person's date is going well. It's a cute, fun, easy read if you need to get out of a reading slump or just need an easy, fast-paced book. But it's not anything spectacular out of this world. It was just easy, done, moving on. After I read it, I found out that it's a part of a series. Or like, not really, but there is a book before that, which is Mr. Wrong Number. So this one is the sister of the guy in the other book, but this one comes first, but I didn't realize that. I didn't even remember that I owned this book. So yeah, I haven't read this one. But I will, because I did like the sister in the other book. Then I read Divine Rivals, which is the first book in the Letters of Enchantment series. I also gave this book 3 stars because it wasn't anything amazing. I'm pretty sure it was third person point of view. It was nothing like what I expected it to be, and I had heard such positive things about it, so I was very excited. But to me, it was just a little slow and kind of boring compared to a lot of other books. It's this girl who has a typewriter, and when she sends the letters and puts them into her closet, it disappears. And then you find out that someone else is receiving these letters, so they start texting back and forth. He knows who she is, but she doesn't know who she is texting. Like, there's a war happening, and that's just kind of what the entire book is about in a way. Like, it was really slow to me and just not that exciting. I don't remember any big plot twists or anything, so it was mid. However, then I read the first 2 books in the Natural series. The first one is called The Natural. These are very short books. They are by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is the same author of The Inheritance Games. This one I gave 4.5. I actually started out by giving it 5 stars, but then I read the second book and it was even better, so I lowered this rating to 4.5. And it's so good. It's about teenagers. If you like Criminal Minds, you will like this. It's about teenagers who get recruited by the FBI to help solve cold cases. The main character is Cassie, who is like the narrator, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's from a third person point of view. I've really been unlucky with hitting third person point of views in this month, by the way. But in this one, I don't care as much when it's not romance, and especially when the narrative doesn't change. So it's Cassie's all the way through. So Cassie gets recruited all of a sudden. Like, that's the book starts with her being recruited by the Naturals program that the FBI has, but it's kind of underlooked. Like, people don't really know about it because they don't know how they would feel about teenagers working for the FBI. But it's so good. So many twists and crazy things are happening because all of a sudden, it says it on the back, so it's not a spoiler, but all of a sudden there's an active case that they have to work on, and they're trying to survive because these people are someone's trying to kill them. And it was so good. It was so good. And then I read the second one, which is Killer Instinct. Still Cassie's point of view, but it kind of focuses on a different character, which I think is what the entire, like, the other books are also. There are four in total, and I think all of them focuses. So the first one focuses on Cassie, but this one focuses on one of the other characters, but it's still from Cassie's point of view. So good. Again, an active case that all of a sudden comes up and they have to help and something happens. But still so good, because the other one you have to kind of, the first half, like you're trying to figure out like what is the naturals program, who are the other people, she's getting trained to be a part of the program and all of that before she's really ready to be a part of the team. So in this one it can kind of start from, this one kind of starts right away because you're already in the world, you already know the people, she's already a part of it, so it's faster because there isn't a lot of the explanations in the beginning. So I gave this one 4.75 because it was better than the other one, but not like 5-star material, you know what I mean? But so good. But I don't own the third or the fourth book yet, and I don't have the money right now to buy it because I'm moving in 2 weeks, you know what I mean? So I'm just waiting to buy the third and fourth one because I'm so excited. Let's add it to the tower. We're gonna move on to my favorite book of the month, which is The Inmate by Frida McFadden. Guys, this book, if you take any book from this and you like thrillers, read this book. It's my favorite thriller that I have read in a very long time. Like, I don't remember, I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I just wanted to continue reading it even though it was over. Like, I just wanted to, I wanted more. It's like, it's around 400 pages. When I tell you guys, I read this in a day. Not only did I read it in a day, but that day I had 2 shifts. One at each of my jobs. I worked for 10 hours that day, and I still managed to read a 400-page book because I could not put it down. I finished it before midnight and everything. I could not stop reading. Any second I had to read it, I was reading it. It was so freaking good. It's about Brooke, who is a nurse, or like a nurse practitioner, I think. Anyway, she's a nurse. And she is moving back to her old hometown because her parents dies, and her son is like dealing with some stuff in the town that they were living in. So they move back into her parents' house, and he starts school there and stuff. And she's trying to get a job around there, and the only place that will hire her is the maximum security prison that is located around 40 minutes from the city. But that was her last priority, kind of, because in that prison there's a guy in the prison who she knows because she testified against him. She put him there in life, prison for life, without the chance of parole. So if he gets hurt or anything in the prison, she will have to heal him and like help him. And obviously but he doesn't act at all like he did these things that she's saying that he did. So all of a sudden she starts to question herself. And in the entire book, I was like, am I being manipulated? What is going on? Like, I could not guess it. And I cannot tell you how many times I said I knew it because something happened that I thought I knew, and then it turned out to not be true. So I was like, I knew it. And then I was like, oh, I was wrong. And then later on I was like, I knew it. And then again, I was wrong. I was literally in my head, I said it to myself multiple times. I was like, am I being manipulated right now? Am I being manipulated right now? I can't tell you if I was or not because I don't want to spoil it, but I have never had a book where I feel like I could not guess it in that way. I don't know. At least not where it kept me so on my toes because I could not figure it out. I thought it was so good. I thought it was so freaking good. So you should go read it if you like thrillers. Then I read a dark romance, which is not something I do very often. The only one I've really read, I think, is the Mindfuck series, which is amazing. You should go read that if you haven't. If you can stomach it, look up trigger warnings. But I read Butcher and Blackbird, which is the first book in a new trilogy, and the second one comes out this summer. So I'm gonna read that. I'm very excited. I gave this book 4 stars because it was a little bit too insta-lovey. They kind of got not together necessarily, but they were very instantly drawn to each other. Like right away, you're like in each of their point of views. You're like, he's the most attractive guy I've ever seen, and she's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. Like, and I'm like, okay, you guys are supposed to be serial killers. This book is about serial killers who hunt other serial killers. Not only serial killers, but like they hunt bad people, like pedophiles and serial killers and stuff like that. And then they start up this like competition. So every year, I think it's August, they get a city and they get a location, and they're both supposed to find the serial killer or like the bad person in that city, and then the first one to kill them wins. So they kind of do that for me. Like the book spans out over many years, but it's just still very insta-lovey because they're just from the beginning, they're just attracted to each other. But they're like, I don't think he feels that way, and I don't want to ruin the friendship. I don't think she feels that way. I don't want to ruin the friendship. You understand. You know the books, you know the kind, and it gets repetitive and annoying. But I did like it because it's not a dark romance where it's like the guy is like a really bad guy who will like assault her or anything like that. It's a dark romance where they are both good people. Like the only people that they kill are other bad people. Because I love The Inmate by Frida McFadden, I thought, let me try another one. I have read The Housemaid by her, but I read The Teacher. I was very disappointed, to say the least, after reading The Inmate. I gave this book 2 stars. It was just so boring. There was nothing that I was really trying to guess. In a way, like it just, yes, there were a few times where I gasped, or I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But it wasn't really thrilling. It wasn't exciting to read. I wasn't trying to really guess anything. It was just kind of going on. And then I wouldn't say it's a spoiler, but if you don't want to know anything about books, then skip this. But I will just warn you that this book has like statutory rape in a way, and it has teacher-student situation going on, and I did not know when going into this book that that was going to happen. And I despise it. I don't think I would have read it if I knew that. I did not enjoy that at all. I wanted to stop reading the book as soon as that happened because no. And it was just so, the girl was just so naive. Like I understand she was 16 years old, but oh my gosh, so naive. And it just didn't make sense. And then at the end, what was revealed, it didn't make sense. I was like, wait, how, what, how? It felt like something the author, like Frida, just put in without thinking how that logistically would make sense. Whatever. Nonetheless, disappointed, which was really, really sad. It's a book in 2 people's point of views. You see a 16-year-old girl's point of view, and then you see a like 38-year-old teacher's point of view, a woman, and she hates her life and she hates her husband. She thinks he's so boring. She doesn't think that he's into her anymore. And the 16-year-old girl had something happen to her, like a rumor that was started about her this prior school year, and now she's going back and everyone hates her and no one wants to talk to her, and she feels very lonely. And you can kind of see here now that I'm like, I don't even know how to explain what the part was. I mean, sure, you were guessing what had happened in the prior year, but like it wasn't anything exciting. I don't know. I can't even explain to you what it was about more than that. A teacher who hated her life. So that's low-key what the book is about. Then later on we get a 3rd point of view, which is the husband's point of view. Yeah, I just wouldn't recommend that book. Then the next 2 books were romances, because after reading some non-romances, I'd only read The Love Wager so far this month, because I was like, I'm not really into romances, because a lot of romances I had started were really disappointing to me, because I find a lot of them are spicy, but in a irritating way, where every chapter someone is saying like, oh, like I'm getting turned on or whatever by the other character, and I'm just like, stop. Like, her smile is not gonna make you act that way. I was turned off from reading romances. But then I started reading this one because I read Yours Truly last summer by Abby Jimenez and I loved it. So I decided to read Part of Your World, which is the first book. I have a thing about reading the second book before the first, but I read Part of Your World and I really, really enjoyed it. It's about Alexis and Daniel. Alexis she works in the ER. Her family has this big legacy and they've all worked at this specific hospital for the past 125 years, and Her parents are retiring, so she's like taking over the legacy. She also has a brother who's also a surgeon. The book kind of starts out with her car getting stuck somewhere in a little small town, and she meets this guy Daniel who lives in the small town, and he helps her out of the ditch where her car's stuck, and they have a connection. They have a one-night stand and they can't stop thinking about each other. Like, they end up reconnecting and they start to hang out, but she always only goes to his town. Like, when she's there, she's part of his world, but he's never really part of her world because she never invites him, because she has very judgmental friends and parents who would never approve of him and would disown her and basically just make fun of her and never ever take it seriously. She's going through a breakup with her ex and he won't really leave her alone and all of this stuff. But it's a very cute romance between the girl and the guy, and Alexis has grown up with like butlers and people, like personal chefs and all these things, so she doesn't know how to do her own laundry, she doesn't know how to do all of these things, and he's teaching her. And it's very cute and rom-com-y and fun and just a light read. I hope I'm in the right spot. I ran out of storage, but I'm back. But anyways, I loved Part of Your World. So because I really loved that one, and I knew that Abby Jimenez's writing wasn't the way that I described before, way too spicy and sexual and whatnot. So I decided to read the Happy Ever After playlist, which is the second book in the Friend Zone book series, kind of. I had for once read the Friend Zone first, so this time I did read it in the right order. I feel like it's kind of a spoiler to explain what the book is about if you haven't read the first one. If you haven't read the first book, it's kind of hard to explain what the second book is about, so I'm not going to say the character name. So if you haven't read the first one, don't look up the characters art from the second book. It's about this woman who is driving home from somewhere, and all of a sudden a dog is in the road. She stops and it jumps into her car, and then she gets pulled over by the police and whatnot. But when she gets home, she tries to contact the owner of the dog. He doesn't respond, but then after a few weeks he does respond. They kind of make this deal that she will continue to look after the dog until he's back home, and they start texting and calling and chatting just like every day. And then they meet when he finally gets home, and then they have a first date. She tells her best friend the name of this guy and like sends a picture of his driver's license. The best friend calls her and says, "Do you know who you are on a date with right now?" And she's like, "No, oh my god, is he a serial killer or someone? Like, who am I on a date with? I'm so scared." And it turns out to be this big singer who is like one of her favorite artists. She just didn't know what he looked like, plus he uses a stage name, so she didn't know that it was him. But now she's like fangirling and she doesn't know. Like, it's kind of like, for me that would be the same equivalent if I was like dog sitting and I'm going on a date and I find out that the person I've been texting is Harry Styles, even though, I mean, sure, if he had sent me a picture I would know. And he's like, "Yeah, are you a fan? You've heard of me?" So he doesn't really get deterred from that, but the romance is so cute in this book. They're falling in love, but they also don't know what to do because he's going on tour. She can't really go with him, or can she, and should she, and it's hard life on the road, and all of these things are happening, and it's so, I really enjoyed it. I give this book 4.25 stars because I really enjoyed it. I loved the romance. It was so funny. I loved the characters and I loved what was happening, and it was true love. Like, honestly, they were soulmates. They were perfect for each other. So I actually started reading the third book in that series, but I haven't finished that, so I can't include it in my March wrap up. But those were the 9 books that I read this month. I had a lot of fun reading. Yeah, I hope you found some new book recommendations from this video.